Okay, now we're going to be talking about some of the processes of power. How people use power? First, we're going to be talking about French and Raven's bases of power. It's a very useful categorization of the different types of power that people who have some kind of authority, who have this power, can use. So, for example, one base of power is reward power. Anybody who has the means to give a reward for doing something has reward power. So, for example, a parent might say to a child, "I will give you candy if you eat quietly at dinner tonight instead of making noise." So you're giving a reward to influence the child to do something you want the child to do. And this would be an example of a parent using their reward power. Now realize this, people who have power can use any of these methods of power. Some individuals, some may be more, you may have more of one type base of power than others. But reward power is a common type of power that can be applied. Coercive power. How about let's bring back the parent and the child again. So the child is making noise at dinner time, and the parent says, "If you don't keep quiet, I'm going to belt you one." Well, that certainly is coercive power. That is where the parent is threatening the child with physical punishment as a result of bad behavior that the child is doing. So, coercive power is the ability to have this power to threaten or punish. So again, you can think of many examples where somebody who might be bigger and stronger, let's say, can punish, or who has certain kinds of power that you don't have. Another good example of coercive power is a mugger. You're walking down the street and someone pulls out a gun or a knife and says, "Give me your money or I'll kill you." Well, that certainly is coercive power. They are threatening to punish you with physical harm. By having that weapon, it gives that person coercive power. How about legitimate power? For example, I'm your instructor. I have legitimate power in certain cases. I have the power to give you grades of A, B, C, D, or F. But I have this right granted to me by Our Lady of Light College. They employ me. They have granted me this right. You as a student have agreed to take the course. As a result, you agree to accept the grade that I give you. I mean, you can make a grade appeal if you want, following the student handbook policies. But basically, I have the authority, because of the power granted me by Our Lady of Light College, to administer a grade for you. So if I can I can give you this grade based on this legitimate power. If you have a job, your boss has the power to hire and fire people. So maybe you could be, in other words, if you do something, if you're late for work frequently, your boss may give you a reprimand. They may dock your pay, or it may fire you. And your boss has this legitimate power because that's essentially the role that was granted him. If he's the owner of the company, obviously he has that power, but maybe he has a boss himself who gives him the power to be able to hire and fire people in his or her unit. See what I'm saying? And that's legitimate power. Reference power is kind of the power that people get from the respect that they are engendered. They are respected people. They may be people that are liked, that are that are appreciated as people who are knowledgeable. Well, no, knowledgeable is more my expert power, but somebody who is liked, somebody who's respected. Think about a TV commercial where you may have someone on TV telling you to go get a reverse mortgage, let's say. So you see, you may have seen the they've, for example, you've got, if you want to get a reverse mortgage, you see the TV commercials. They have Fred Thompson on one, they have Henry Winkler on another, telling you about reverse mortgages. Fred Thompson, who was on the show Law and Order, and he's respected. He's seen he was a U.S. senator. He's seen as a real respectful, deep voice kind of guy, and people who were maybe thinking about getting a reverse mortgage might want to listen to him. Maybe Henry Winkler, who was the Fonz back in the show Happy Days. Well, maybe people who are watching Happy Days now, they're kind of retirement age. So now they might say, hey, the Fonz says I should get a reverse mortgage. I think I better go ahead and do that. And that's it. In this case, it's providing influence over you to listen to this particular person because of the reference power that they exude. Another example would be, let's say you're in a military unit, for example, and you have the lieutenant who has the granted legitimate authority to give you orders and tell you what to do and tell you to do whatever you have, whatever your duties are. But you may have a sergeant who also has power over you, but not power over the lieutenant. But the sergeant may be someone that everybody listens to. Perhaps even the lieutenant listens to the sergeant. Maybe the sergeant is the most knowledgeable. He's the most respected in the group, and he just exudes that kind of respect, and therefore they're more likely to listen to the sarge than they are to the lieutenant. So that's another example. Expert power is when you are a person who has certain kinds of skills, certain kinds of abilities, and you are essentially, your authority is respected based on those skills that you have and those abilities. For example, here, I do have legitimate power because I was assigned to be the instructor for this course, but I also have certain abilities and skills that I've developed over the years. I have a PhD in personality and social psychology. So my expertise in this area allows me to have the expert authority to teach the course and be able to influence you as far as convincing you to do the things you need to do for the course. Now, if this course were physical chemistry, I would not have expert power when it comes to teaching physical chemistry. Last time I took chemistry was in high school. So there you have an example where in some cases I would have the expert power, and perhaps in other cases I would not. Finally, informational power is important. You might have a person who has just access keys to a particular information. They may not necessarily be an expert. They may not necessarily be a respected person. They may not even have legitimate power, but they just might have information. Someone who, for example, is an informant may have power that allows him to get rewards from the police. He can give information that only he has, and the police can give him what he wants. So that's an example of using informational power to be able to influence people. So how do people get their way? How do people apply these various bases of power? How can they actually exercise their power and actually get what they want? And there are different ways in which people do it. Some people use soft tactics, some people who use hard tactics. And you might have even had bosses who used one or both of these. Soft tactics involves, let's say, collaboration, socializing, ingratiation. So your boss wants you to do something, they're going to meet with you, they're going to chat with you, they're going to try to convince you that, this is a good thing for you to do, try to get you to like them. Hey, I'm your boss. I may be your boss, but I'm your friend too. And I don't want to have to order you around or anything like that. That's not the kind of way I want to work here. We're a team. Let's collaborate. Everything like that. Those are certainly soft tactics in terms of the boss getting what he or she wants from you. The boss could also be a bully and threaten you and say, boss can say, I'm going to take away your next vacation unless you do what I want from me. Or they might say, I'll give you a bonus if you do some overtime this week or something like that. So they could use hard tactics. They may try to force you to do something. Other times they may want to use soft tactics, kind of, be the nice guy, that kind of thing. Another way in which power is applied is irrational power or non-rational power. Rational power involves using reasoning and logic to persuade the person that you want to influence. So you may use logical arguments. You may want to explain the benefits of listening to you, that kind of thing. Non-rational, however, might be more trying to kind of a little bit indirect and maybe trying to cajole you in certain kind of way. Not using reasoning and logic, but maybe appealing to your emotion in some way, making buying you something nice, and trying to convince you in that way. Not appealing to your brain, but maybe appealing to your heart. Another way to look at it, unilateral versus bilateral attempts to get your way. Fait accompli is like if you think basically saying like you tell them, okay, I want you to do this, and there's really nothing you can do about it now. The plan I've already told the boss you're going to do it, so you got to do it. I don't know if you've ever had that from maybe a boss. Maybe a boss tells you that you've already been volunteered for a particular duty, and you can't say no now because it's already been put on the schedule. Something like that. That would be that kind of thing. That's a kind of a unilateral, this is the way it's going to be, sorry. And again, it could be just a demand, you got to do it, and that's basically it. Bilateral indicates it's less a two-way street rather than a one-way street. You can be engaging in discussion, you might be negotiating with the party, so you may be able to get some of what you want, but not all of it. And that would be kind of like a bilateral approach. So again, you could see many different examples of people using power in a number of these ways. There are various ways in which salespeople will try to get people to comply, to get people to do what they want them to do. This is, trying to get people to comply with a request is a big part of being a successful salesperson. I've mentioned the foot in the door technique before. The idea is you get somebody to agree to a small request, and then you can follow it with a larger one. And these are kind of subtle techniques that are often used, but they can be very, very effective. So the foot in the door technique, I can tell you this. I used to, for a while, I sold Electrolux vacuum cleaners door to door, and I used the foot in the door technique as a method of selling the vacuum cleaner and shampooer. What I would do is I would knock on someone's door and I would offer them the opportunity to get a free carpet cleaning, where I would offer to take my vacuum cleaner and shampoo and clean their carpet for free. Now, letting me in to go ahead and give them a free carpet cleaning, there's really no risk to them, and they get a clean carpet out of it. So it's a very small request that they would agree to. But of course, what I'm going to really ask them to do is to ask them if they would like to buy my vacuum cleaner and shampooer. So I've given them a small request of please let me in to clean your carpet, followed by the large request which comes later as how about you spend $1,000 on this new machine here, and you can clean your carpets anytime you want, something like that. So that's one technique. The door in the face technique is another kind of technique where you would essentially give a really large request, and then you would follow it with one that is a smaller request. So you kind of give them, when you do that, because you say, hey, you want to buy this, vacuum cleaner and shampooer set for $1,500? Oh, no way, no, I can't do that. Well, how about this small vacuum cleaner for $100? How about that? So, oh, well, all right. And so they refuse the $1,500 expense, but they accept the $100 one. But if you just started off with the $100 request, they probably would say no. But at $100, spending $100 looks a lot better than spending $1,500. So by starting with the large request, then you can kind of get the small request in there. Behavioral commitment is another important way of getting people to agree to do things. Basically, if you can get someone to agree to something, once you've secured agreement, you can then reveal some additional costs that they'll have to accept because they've already agreed. This technique, by the way, is called lowballing. So let's say I'm a car salesman, and we agree on a price, and they say, okay, we agreed, there's the price, very good, now let's work on the paperwork here. And then I say, oh, okay, so now here we're going to do the True Coat paint protector. We're gonna throw this warranty. We're gonna put this, give you this warranty is gonna be an extra $1,000, and do all these different things, and talk about all the extra things that come after they've already agreed on the price. So now they're ending up paying $5,000 more than they thought they would be paying because of the lowballing that you use, but that they'll be willing to pay that extra $5,000 because they've already agreed to take the car. So and again, that's an unscrupulous technique, but it's often done, and it's called lowballing. And brainwashing is something that really, it's kind of a extended process where you can get people to do things. You start, the series of compliance. You get them to make small agreements to small things, and you gradually increase. You also apply physical threats. Maybe then you can get them to agree to something. You'll back off on the threats. So it's kind of that back and forth until you finally getting the person to agree to do things that they certainly would not have agreed to before.